Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I'd like to welcome you, dear viewers, to another in our series, In the Light of Islam. Dear viewers, we greet you with Islamic greeting. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace and blessings be on each and every one of you. And in this segment, we'll be looking at some questions which have come to me by way of email from viewers of our program. You can email me at fld3@hotmail.com or write in to Sharjah Television, PO Box 111, in the Light of Islam, Sharjah, UAE. And we'll try to answer your questions however they get to us. We also have questions which have come over the telephone, questions which have come to our offices in Dubai for Dawah, for explaining Islam, the Islamic Information Center. And we welcome all of your questions. At any rate, the first question that we have has to do with an issue of divorce. This is a question which has come by way of the email. It says, Dear Sheikh Abu Ameena Bilal Phillips, I really need your help in a very important matter. Could you please give answers on the following questions? It is very urgent. Please help. The matter. Talaq is the right of the husband, but the husband gets pressurized by the family-in-law due to circumstances to give 3 talaqs in one instance to his wife, although the husband does not want to do so, since he has no intention of divorcing her. However, he was made to say these 3 talaqs. The family insists that these 3 talaqs is equal to 3 because they follow the Hanafi school. Therefore, it is complete and his wife cannot be taken back. They also say that the wife can only go back to her husband if she first marries another husband, has a life, and then divorces him completely. Halala, in brackets. Okay, this is the background of our question. Question number 1, the writer Said asks, and Said is writing from Holland. Since talaq is not the right of the family-in-law, and also not subjective or subject to their thoughts, fiqh, but talaq and rujur are the rights of the husband, can the family-in-law make objections to rujur because they believe that the 3 talaqs are at one instance equal to 3 talaqs, while the husband does not believe so? Second question, is there any concept of mutual consent regarding rujur? And third question, is the Hanafi point of view of any value in this case? And Said adds a note at the end. The husband himself puts no value on the pronouncing of talaq. Since he was pressurized to do so, he was also pressurized to sign a divorce deed. The husband had to do something against his will and was pressurized and threatened in different ways, which was not suiting. The husband had and still has absolutely no intention of divorcing his wife and wants her back, but problems are being created to get her back. Also, the Prophet ﷺ said Allah has forgiven 3 things from his ummah, of which one is that they, the ummah, have been coerced to do. Therefore, for the husband, the talaq has no value, and a forced talaq is ineffective, and he considers his wife still as his wife. Could you please send a legal verdict according to Quran and authentic Sunnah as soon as possible? May Allah bless you for all your efforts, Said. Well, if we look at this issue, it's quite, seems quite complicated. There are a number of points raised here. First and foremost, the issue of whether this talaq is valid, since the individual was forced to do so by his family-in-law, meaning his wife's parents or family members. They pressurized him by threatening him, whatever and so on. The question is the divorce valid. He mentions that the husband doesn't consider it to be valid. Well, the point is that when we look at the issue of coercion, which makes an act invalid, that coercion is where one's life or limb is threatened. Somebody puts a gun to your head, or somebody threatens to break your arms and your legs, and they've caught you, etc. I mean, there's physical violence which is, about to come on you. Not a person calling you over the telephone and say, if you don't do this, I'm going to break your legs. No, if they have your leg in a vice and they're about to break it and they say, you better do this, okay, you do it then. Those are the circumstances where coercion in the case of divorce could be said to invalidate that divorce. However, threats which may be, threats from the family that, for example, other family members may be married to other members of that individual's family and say, listen, if you don't divorce her, we're going to divorce your aunt or your sister or your whatever. These are other forms of pressure. A variety of other social pressures. These pressures do not invalidate a divorce. If the individual has pronounced divorce clearly, not in ambiguous terms, because if the divorce is in ambiguous terms, he said, for example, go back to your family. And somebody asked him after, what did you mean by that? He meant that he wanted to separate from his wife in order to reduce the pressure which is on him, but he did not intend divorce, then that is not considered to be divorce. But when he says, I divorce you, or you are divorced, or he signs a piece of paper saying, I divorce my wife, so then this divorce is valid as long as the pressure on him was not life-threatening. Somebody has not put a knife to his neck or put his leg in a vice. As long as it hasn't reached that stage, then the divorce is valid. The second issue is that of 3 divorces. Are 3 in 1 considered? The Hanafi school holds that though it's a bid'ah divorce, it is not in accordance with the Sunnah, but they still hold it valid. The Prophet Muhammad in his time, in the vast majority of narrations that are well authenticated, where cases were brought to the Prophet Muhammad of people divorcing more than one time in one sitting, he told them that this is one divorce. So if the husband pronounced the divorce following what was the practice of Prophet Muhammad, then it's perfectly valid for him to consider it to be simply one divorce. And if the divorce is complete, that is, if the 3-month period or the 3 monthly periods have passed and the divorce has completed itself, he may take his wife back with a new marriage without her having to remarry anybody else. That's the second point. If his wife was still in the iddah, if she was still in iddah, then it is possible for him to take her back by just stating that he no longer wishes to continue the divorce. Because with the pronouncement of divorce, the woman goes into this waiting period. But she is still his wife. He still has to look after her, provide for her, etc. She's supposed to stay in his home. He's not supposed to send her out of his home. So she's still his wife. Now, the issue comes up, is the rujur, or raja, this is returning her back to the full state of marriage, is this based on mutual consent? Meaning, if she doesn't want to come back, does he still have to, she has to agree to come back before his saying that I take you back is valid? No. Because the woman is his wife. So if he decides to cancel his pronouncement, then she is his wife. If he says, I don't want, or the family pressures her to say, I don't want, no, that's not valid. This is, of course, when she's in the period of iddah. So the principle of mutual consent is not valid here. Mutual consent is valid in the case of the marriage itself. When they're about to be married, mutual consent has to be there for that marriage to be a valid marriage. That is, neither party was forced into marriage. Now, the third point that should be mentioned, or is it the fourth point, that this issue of halala, the idea where a woman has been divorced now 3 times, she wants to go back to her husband, so the family makes this arrangement. You marry so-and-so, you marry, complete the marriage, consummate the marriage, everything, and then, after a couple of days you divorce, so you can remarry your husband. They refer to this as halala. This has been strictly forbidden in Islam. Prophet ﷺ cursed that individual and described him, as a bull, that is loaned out. Described him in terms of a bull which is loaned out to different owners of cattle so that you can impregnate various cattle. So this is forbidden. That marriage, if a woman marries after being divorced 3 times, it has to be a valid marriage. Not a marriage with a plan after so many months or after a month or after a week we're going to be divorced. That type of marriage is temporary marriage. And temporary marriage is forbidden in Islam. For us to make a marriage and say we'll be married for such and such a period of time, this is not acceptable. Marriage is supposed to be a lasting institution till both parties die, or one of the parties die, or if it ends in divorce, which is a legitimate divorce. So, we can say then, in summary, this individual may take his wife back if she's still in iddah, or he may remarry her if the iddah is already complete. There is no such thing